I may have uncovered one of the most insidious things I've found in science fiction, maybe ever. At this point, there's a new SFWA anthology which labels itself on editing, and it features anti-white discrimination, and it's funded by you, the taxpayer, by the National Endowment of the Arts. And it looks like they did everything they could to try to hide the fact that this was an anti-white discriminatory thing, because I bet you that to get federal funding, they couldn't legally discriminate, so they had to do this. This is just my speculation, but it is kind of weird, and they are absolutely discriminating against white people. They are preferring black people in order to try to push agendas of racial division, and this is what SFWA is. They are just a terrible organization. If you're a white person in the organization, I would quit. I mean, it's absolutely crazy at this point how far they go to do this kind of thing, and you're just not welcome. You are a second-class citizen. Why would you be a part of this? It's crazy. We'll get into the news in just a moment. Smash that like and subscribe button. Join us here on our quest to 50,000 subscribers. Thank you, everybody, as we cover everything in science fiction, especially when it comes to publishing and the like. I am a science fiction author myself, banned from SFWA multiple times as they were mad at me for calling their former president a pedophile defender when their former president was defending a pedophile. That is really what was happening. It's really sad. And so they've been on a crusade against me to keep me out of publishing, keep me out of science fiction for a long time, and it's not succeeding. I am selling better than pretty much 99% of their club at this point. Very, very funny stuff. And it's all because once readers actually do discover my work, they discover that it's actual fun science fiction that's like it used to be back in the 70s and 80s, and even before that. I wrote a beautiful space opera trilogy right here. It's called The Arishon War. It starts with the stars entwined, and it's about a spy, a human spy, who embeds himself on an alien starship, genetically modifies himself to look like one of them to bring information back to Earth in the middle of a war. Personal matters start to complicate things, and it spirals out of control. It's a 3-book series, and the third book really does pay off a lot. So read the whole trilogy. It's available on ebook, print, and audio. If you like science fiction, you're going to love this series. It's in the description below. Again, thank you for supporting and reading and making this such a great seller this year. Really appreciate you all for being there. All right, so let's look into what's going on with this SFWA anthology, which I was just tooling around their website, and I saw this. Publishing Taught Me, a SFWA anthology. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. And so I look at these names, Nisi Shawl, and this is the editor, who's a black lady who they've been propping up as a diversity person for a while. And we got Ogeno Chalvui Donald Ekpeki, who we've covered on the channel before. He actually was accused about a month ago of stealing a white woman's short story and then filing her name off of it and then submitting it to a Black Voices anthology. Very silly stuff. So you go through this list, and sure enough, every single person on here is a BIPOC, as they call it, a Black, Indigenous, or person of color. Yes, because all of them are the same. They're a monolith. It's either white or not white, and not white is the preferential treatment here. And I thought, wow, this is kind of wild that this is an all deal like this when probably 90% of SFWA's membership's white, and this is made by volunteers and all members of SFWA. How did this happen? So I look at this, and I see the description. And it says it's funded by a grant from the National Endowment of the Arts. Well, this is really interesting again. So the National Endowment of the Arts is a taxpayer-funded entity and is a government-run entity. So now you've got a completely minority deal. Maybe there's nothing insidious about this. Maybe it was just an accident, and all these people who had their Publishing Taught Me editorial experiences just happened to be BIPOC. But that's, again, a little statistically improbable. So I started looking into things, and I started looking into this Nisi Shawl and her social media. And when I saw this, turns out it is not just Publishing Taught Me, like it says it does not say this on their website. Essays on writing while BIPOC. So intentionally, this is only about writing while a certain race. They are literally race-stoking, race-dividing here, acting like that is some sort of topic that needs to be talked about. Like, is it different to write and edit when you're black than when you're white? I mean, it's kind of weird because writing's kind of a solitary effort. Like when I write, I usually put on headphones and listen to some music without lyrics and just kind of, just pound the keyboard for a couple hours. And there's really nothing involved in it that involves race. You do need fingers. So I guess if you're an amputee, I'd be a little different. Or if you do it via like a speech-to-text thing, that'd be a little different. That's maybe worthy of an essay of how it would be different. But other than that, like writing and editing is a singular process that is very personal and very solitary, and should have nothing to do with race whatsoever. But it does. Everything has to do with race with these people. All they think about all day long is skin color, and this is how shallow they are. This is how evil they are. This is literally racism, and they don't like white people, and this is what it comes down to. They want to kick white people out of publishing. We've seen several examples of this, and they're promoted all over everything. I mean, we did a article on this again about how anti-white sentiment is a part of mainstream publishing, the publishing industry discrimination against white men exposed on a viral video where, sure enough, you're into fantasy and like everything is a woman or BIPOC, and there are no white men except for like really old works like Lord of the Rings on the shelves at all at this point. And it's like, where did all these people go? And so we look at Joyce Carol Oates, who's a literary scholar, of course. She says, a friend who's a literary agent told me he cannot even get editors to read first novels by young white male writers, no matter how good. They are just not interested. They are heartbreaking to writers who may, in fact, be brilliant and critical of their own, quote, privilege. And that's the crazy thing. So white male writers are just not welcome in the publishing industry. And this is another example of it, which is crazy. And what grinds my gears about it, because SFWA doing this really, I mean, doesn't matter. I mean, there's not a single soul who's going to read this or care about this. And nobody would actually buy this on the open market. But what grinds my gears about is that the government's actually paying for this. The government actually funded this through the National Endowment of the Arts, and that makes it really, really evil because the government is institutionalizing racism against whites and of course, sexism against men by doing this kind of thing. And this is pretty wild as we get into this whole situation with Nisi Shaul here as we look at this. So Nisi Shaul is a diversity hire who's held up literally because of this. That's all she talks about ever is her sort of stuff. Look at this. It's all identity politics. We can have a vibrant community of trans people or have Singal and his followers. So this is somebody who wants somebody banned from the platform because of, I guess, trans stuff. Last day to apply. Spend a week with me this summer so we can immerse ourselves in speculative fiction's queerness. Again, like, what's this have to do with writing or anything like that? I mean, if you're going to go bang another woman or something like that, Nisi Shaul, that doesn't really have anything. I mean, is it an orgy or is it a writing seminar? Yeah, LGBTQ voices always, right? And this is again what this person pushes all the time. Block Jesse Singal, make him the most blocked transphobe on Blue Sky. So they're actively trying to block and hurt people who are just against their agenda and all that. Very, very wild stuff. As you could see, this is all it is. The Day of Night books. Oh boy, a new character. Oh my gosh. So this is racism. And it's institutionalized racism. They always talk about how racism is institutionalized. This is also from the SFWA blog, where you can see there's diverse BIPOC-centric anthologies edited by BIPOC. Again, you're Latin, you're Black, you're all the same, right? It's just that you're a BIPOC or you're white, and that's a crazy thing right here. But you see, they have all these anthologies that are only for these type of writers and only for these type of editors all the time. It's not like they need that, except for the fact that people just don't read them because nobody wants to be lectured to about race when they're reading a science fiction book. It's really obnoxious. And so, of course, nobody's going to buy a book called Latinx Rising, especially Latinos like myself, because Latinx is a colonizer term, my friends. You want to go on that. It's obnoxious, bastardizing the Spanish language like that. But it's not going to get any traction, so they have to force it. And the only way they can force it is by having the government promote it and push it and pay people anyway to force these people out there, because the free market would never allow this. The free market says all of these things are garbage, and nobody actually wants to read these. And you never hear about any actual readers reading stuff like this in science fiction. All the readers out there are on Amazon right now reading stuff like The Stars Entwined that really actually does sell. And that's why they're trying to get propped up from the government. This sort of thing needs to stop, and I hope this new administration takes a hard look at what the National Endowment of the Arts is funding, because it is discriminatory in the culture. It is discriminatory by nature, and it's actually hurting a lot of the citizens of this population who are white, who are male, who are getting discriminated against in publishing and all forms of entertainment like movies, video games, etc., as minorities are getting preferential treatment. I don't know at what point these people are going to wake up and stop this kind of thing, but it needs to be done, and that's why we're calling it out over here. So please hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think, guys. How do you feel about your tax dollars going to this? Absolutely infuriating this morning. And please check out some non-racist books. I'm legally not racist, guys. That's quite the opposite of these people. Please check out this series. It is in the description below, and that's a little inside joke for people who have followed for a while. I appreciate you being there. This is really good science fiction. You can love this no matter what political persuasion you are. I think it's just a fun action adventure, and that's what we try to write over here. We're making science fiction fun again, and I appreciate you guys for being there. Grab this, support our channel. We'll be back soon.